The Atlanta judge making a ruling in the Fani Willis situation. Fani Willis, kind of getting to eat her cake. What's the expression? Have your cake and eat it too. I mean, I don't know how else to interpret exactly what's going on here, because this is a judge that wants to have it every which way. In other words, will scold Fani, but will still let her stay on the case. I'm sorry, like, there's a conflict of interest. If there's a conflict of interest enough that you need to scold her, then wouldn't you take her off the case? Let me go through some of the things that have come up. I've been reading through this. Somehow, every time I try and get away, every single time there's some major news, but you know how committed I am. So here I am from vacation, here with you, because this stuff matters. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, subscribe and hit the bell. Hit the bell, ladies and gentlemen, because then you know when I am here live, like in a situation like this where we've got breaking news, and wow, the judge basically making this decision saying that there's reasonable questions here about whether the DA and her hand-selected boyfriend, those are my words, not his, actually was improper. And I think that, it goes without saying, obviously, it was improper. But nonetheless, the court, and I quote, therefore concludes that the prosecution of this case cannot proceed until the state selects one of two options. Either Fani, the district attorney, may choose to step aside along with her entire office and refer the prosecution to the prosecuting attorney's counsel for reassignment, or Fani fires the boyfriend. Again, I'm just getting rid of some of the legal words. So Scott McAfee, the judge, who actually Fani used to work for, is saying, okay, you screwed up, but we're going to let it go as long as you fire the boyfriend. And I'm like, wait a second, like, how does that happen? It's kind of like, oh, I don't know, the Biden situation where, yeah, you can take all the classified documents that you want, and we're not going to prosecute you for it because, you're just too old. It's like there's two different standards here. Amazing to me. But let's turn, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go right back to the court filing, because you can see my scribbles. I'm reading through this, and I'm like underlining in red and in green. But here's one of the things from very early on in the report. We're talking about the relationship, and the judge, Scott McAfee, writes that the court finds that the defendants failed to meet their burden of proving that the district attorney acquired an actual conflict of interest in this case through her personal relationship and recurring travels with her lead prosecutor. Okay, so they're saying there's no conflict of interest. He goes on to say basically that she didn't really financially benefit from this arrangement, or at least that the court didn't prove. In other words, the woman who was sort of like a Trump surrogate, Ashley Merchant, didn't prove that there was real financial benefit for Fani, and therefore, as a result, the conflict was not as severe in the judge's opinion as to merit them taking Fani off this and her office altogether off this. Just Nathan. Nathan's got to go, because Nathan can't make 600 plus grand off of Fulton County taxpayers anymore just for having a relationship with Fani. I mean, again, I don't agree with this judge's decision. I think if you're going to take one step, you should actually follow through. But he goes on to say, however, the established record now highlights a significant appearance of impropriety that infects the current structure of the prosecution team, an appearance that must be removed through the state's selection of one or two options. And the options, of course, we read to you. All right. Let me give you some more here. The judge goes on that the appearance standard recognizes that even when no actual conflict exists, a perceived conflict in the reasonable eyes of the public threatens confidence in the legal system itself. Yeah, duh. When this danger goes uncorrected, it undermines the legitimacy and the moral force of our already weakest branch of government, he writes. So, sure, I mean, yeah, it looks like a huge conflict of interest. None of this is good. So why didn't you just get rid of her altogether, since she's the one who actually hired the guy and that she's the one who's responsible for the conflict of interest? With these principles in mind, he writes, the court finds that the record made at the evidentiary hearing established that the district attorney's prosecution is encumbered by the appearance of impropriety. So all he wants to do is get rid of the appearance. He's not actually saying it's improper. I mean, I think it's pretty improper, but this is this judge who she used to work for. This appearance is not created by mere standard alone, but because of specific conduct and impacts more than a mere nebulous public interest because it concerns a public prosecutor. Okay, so yeah, he's saying this doesn't look good, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there was anything really bad other than just how the whole thing appears. He goes on about the money here. So remember how she went on all these different trips with him, like cruises and Napa Valley vacations, and he's taking her, and she's like, oh no, I paid him back in cash. And everybody's like, seriously? You just had like thousands of dollars hanging around in cash? Her father went on the stand and tried to say it's a black thing. And I'm like, no, I mean, maybe it's actually a Democrat thing. Because didn't Hunter Biden have tons and tons and tons of cash that he was taking out of his ATM to pay his alleged affair partners with? Anyway, I digress. She said she paid him back in cash. And he writes, the judge, that such a reimbursement practice may be unusual, and the lack of any documentary corroboration, understandably, concerning. Yet the testimony withstood direct contradiction, was corroborated by other evidence. For example, her payment of airfare for two on the 2022 Miami trip, and was not so credible as to be inherently unbelievable. However, as the district attorney herself acknowledged, no ledger exists other than a best guesstimate. So in other words, it's not clear whether they really split the expenses unevenly. It's not really clear that there really was any reimbursement at all, but nonetheless, apparently none of it really matters. Okay. These people, I mean, honest to God, like, what is going on in Fulton County, Georgia? What? Scott McAfee, shame on you, okay? Like, look, you're going so far as to actually say this woman has an improper situation going on, so we're going to just correct for the improper situation, meaning she needs to get rid of Nathan. Trust me, she's not stepping down. Didn't she already break up with the guy? She was not exactly complimentary to Nathan Wade in her conversations on the stand about him, if you recall. But strangely, the left-wing media thinks that this is a gift for Trump. It's most definitely not. In other words, I mean, maybe it's a gift in that this woman, Fani Willis, is clearly a moron. Like, I'm sorry. Not a bright woman. I mean, she never should have taken up with this guy, who was married, by the way. But, like, this guy was clearly not, how do I say, not the brightest himself. And then she's clearly not playing with a full deck, because she's doing this all while she's got to know she's under a microscope. I mean, for goodness sakes, you're going after a former president of the United States, and you can't keep it together enough not to have a thing with your prosecutor. I mean, you're kind of in a high-profile case, so you got to assume when you start going after the former president of the United States, you better be clean as a whistle, right? You know, you don't throw stones at glass houses, as they say. But she was not only not clean as a whistle, she kind of like brought this on. I mean, remember during her campaign when she said this? Let me pull this one up for you because this is great. Fani Willis, while she was campaigning for DA, was like, hey, you need me because I'm actually not going to spend your taxpayer money on my little affairs, and I'm not going to take up with my employees.
Because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees. Because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children. Because we deserve better.
Okay, Fanny. Yeah, they deserve better, and you were clearly not the answer. Okay, just not the answer, because you didn't really do much better, now did you? Here she is again, actually accepting an award at a speech. Let me pull this one up for you.
This is a really hard job I'm trying to do. And I am an imperfect human being. But I can literally feel the people who loves me's prayers. If just every now and again you'll throw my name in a prayer, God hears his children. I would very much appreciate that. So I thank you for this honor today. because it is an honor worth having when it comes from a group of people such as the people that worship here. So thank you.
Okay, so there she is accepting an award. I just actually want to play that again because the very beginning was super important. Fani Willis accepting an award and kind of trying, in my estimation, to try and make this somehow racially charged. In other words, they're going after me for my affair with Nathan Wade because I am a black woman and I'm not perfect. I mean, this was bizarre.
This is a really hard job I'm trying to do. And I am an imperfect human being. But I can literally feel the people who loves me's prayers. If just every now and again you'll throw my name in a prayer.
Okay, there she is, just asking for your prayers because she needs them. Look, I guess she got the prayers answered from Scott McAfee because this attorney, this judge whom she used to work for, has made the decision that she can continue to run her office just so long as she gets rid of the boyfriend, who apparently no longer is the boyfriend. I mean, wow. Now, Trump will appeal this, by the way. He's going to appeal this. And what he really needs to be able to somehow prove is that she did gain financially. In other words, one of the criticisms, and I share this criticism of Ashley Merchant, is that she didn't ask questions like, how much was he paid compared to other people? In other words, he was making some $600 and something thousand. How did that compare and contrast to other attorneys that were brought in from the outside to work for the state? Was he making that much money more, right, than what was normal? And then somebody needs to do some forensic accounting to figure out where all of his money went. Because if he was somehow giving her cash, this is what needs to be proven, ladies and gentlemen. This is the next leg in this. If they can get there, they've got to somehow go back and look at what she was getting. Now, if he bought her diamond earrings, if he gets her a Rolex watch, maybe they'll say, oh, that's just a boyfriend taking care of his girlfriend like he took her on trips. I mean, I would differ. I think that that's a direct sort of financial gain that you're getting. But again, if they can kind of somehow prove out that she was getting actual money from this, so they need to go back and look at her bank records. They need to go back and look at his bank records. And if she was getting a cut, well, then they've really got a case. And that's where that's where actually Ashley Merchant really failed on this one, because she should have been asking those questions all along, and there should have been some forensic accounting in terms of trying to figure out just exactly what Fani was getting out of this. And so McAfee, if we want to throw him a bone at all, in this sense, is shedding light on the fact that the lawyers were unable to actually prove that. But again, they didn't really go there hard enough. Because, yeah, vacation's one thing, but maybe if she was actually getting money from him, if they normally pay $300,000, if they normally pay like $1,000 an hour, but they were paying this guy $2,200 an hour, what was happening with the other $1,200? Was Fani actually getting any of that? So I would urge them in this appeal, should there be one, and I think there would be, to find some lawyers that can really do the forensic accounting and get yourself a really good forensic accounting. I mean, maybe help the ex-wife out with her divorce, because there's got to be a forensic accountant involved with that one. That accountant will be looking to see just exactly where every single dollar went from none other than Mr. Wade. And if any of it was actually going straight to Fani, well, then you got yourself a good old-fashioned problem. But you know who doesn't realize this? The mainstream media. The mainstream media actually sees this as a gift for Trump. It's not, other than, I guess Fani continues in the job, and she's clearly not the swiftest. So, at least you get the gift of a dumb prosecutor that you're working with, a dumb DA. But here's CNN.
Paula Reed, she's got some more information. You're going through this right now and looking through the judge's ruling, and there are some harsh words in it, we understand?
There are. To Ellie's point, the judge, while he has not removed Fani Willis from the case, he does have some considerable criticism for her. He's saying, look, without sufficient evidence that the district attorney acquired a personal stake in this prosecution or that her financial arrangements had any impact on the case. So there he's addressing the fact that they didn't really prove that she benefited from Wade being on this case when she was in a romantic relationship. She said the defendant's claims of an actual conflict must be denied. So he's like, look, you didn't prove that she had any sort of benefit that she received from the money Nathan Wade was making from this case. But he said this finding is by no means any indication that the court condones this tremendous lapse in judgment or the unprofessional manner of the district attorney's testimony during the evidentiary hearing. Rather, it is the undersigned, the judge's opinion that Georgia law does not permit the finding of an actual conflict for simply making bad choices. So this is pretty significant. I mean, he is suggesting that he's saying that she had a tremendous lapse in judgment, that she was unprofessional when she testified. Remember, she was getting pretty contentious, pretty fiery with the defense attorney, insisting that she was not on trial, when in fact they were asking her questions because the judge was assessing whether she needed to be disqualified. And then also saying here that she made bad choices. And look, even though she's going to stay on the case, all of this, especially this language from the judge, and we're just skimming the opinion right now, I'm sure there's likely more, it's really a gift to former President Trump and his co-defendants, because they're not only going to fight this case on the merits, they fight it in the court of public opinion. Optics here matter. He has tried to undermine trust in the justice system. And if you have a judge who's overseeing a case, calling the prosecutor, again, unprofessional, saying that she made a bad decision, she had a lapse in judgment, that is a lot of ammunition for the former president and his co-defendants.
Okay, all right, a lapse in judgment, but the idea that somehow this is a gift to Trump, no, the real gift would have been to do what was actually needed, which would be to get rid of Fani Willis altogether and the entire office and start over.